mention some of the things this government has done already in its first 3 weeks. So it's announced that it will restart funding of UNRWA, the United Nations agency that manages Palestinians in Gaza and elsewhere. Now, one might think that's a good thing, except money for UNRWA is essentially money for Hamas. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt that UNRWA employees participated in the murders and rapes and kidnappings of October 7th. They have also stored rockets that have been fired at Israeli communities in UNRWA schools. So it's one thing to say we want to restore funding to the Palestinians through some other neutral agencies, or maybe fund some British doctors or medical care to go to Gaza. It's also another thing to say we're going to monitor UNRWA, but that's not what they've said. They're basically going to give them a blank check, which essentially is money for Hamas. Another thing that they've done in recent days is the Labour government, is they've said they are no longer going to oppose the arrest warrant that the International Criminal Court have sought after the Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Now, other democracies have strongly condemned this ICC move against Netanyahu and Gallant. President Biden, for example, who has been very critical of Israel in various ways, but he termed, and I quote, outrageous the ICC effort to obtain arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant. The Germans and other government are working strongly against this, both because it's wrong. Okay, the ICC is a highly politicized court, which is not a neutral arbiter, but also because it's against the interests of democratic states. Right. You're opening a Pandora's box. If they issue arrest warrants against a democratically elected leader of Israel, they are asking for future arrest warrants to be issued against other leaders, including potentially that of the United Kingdom, who of course have participated in various military and defensive actions. I mean, for example, Britain has helped bomb Yemen and the Houthis in recent days. Right. Is the ICC going to seek an arrest warrant of Keir Starmer? They are opening an absolute Pandora's box. They're also going to make it very difficult for the democratically elected leader of Israel to even visit the United Kingdom. He may fear being arrested. Yeah. Now, I know that Paul and many other friends of mine in Israel are not the biggest fan of Benjamin Netanyahu, but this is not about Netanyahu. This is about the democratically elected leader of Israel, and it will apply to any other democratically elected leader of Israel in the future. They are playing with fire, Britain, to do this. And then it is strongly rumored that in this week, Britain is going to impose an arms embargo on Israel. We must remember Israel is fighting a war on several fronts, a war imposed upon it by Iranian proxy terror groups, Hezbollah in the north, Hamas in the south, the Houthis in Yemen. And it's not that the arms that Britain supplies to Israel are so important for the military effort. Britain's defense industries are not so significant, but symbolically, it's terrible. It's terrible. It sends a terrible message. Britain is not putting in an arms embargo on other countries who are allied with Britain, who are not democracies, like, for example, the United Arab Emirates or Jordan or Egypt or Saudi Arabia, and I can name many others around the world. They are singling out Israel because they are obsessed by Israel. And there's one more final point I'd like to make. This month, July 2024, has been a particularly busy news month. So, you know, the election was only three weeks ago. And in these 3 weeks, the British Foreign Secretary, the new one, David Lammy, the Foreign Minister, has made one visit. He's visited Israel in order to berate and lecture Israel. He hasn't gone anywhere else in the world, like Ukraine or anywhere else. But in these 3 weeks, since July 4th election, we've had an election in France, which saw the rise of both the extreme left and extreme right, who together got more than 50% of the vote. We've seen an assassination attempt, which almost killed the former American president and front runner to be next president, Donald Trump. We've seen Trump make a somewhat contentious vice presidential pick of J.D. Vance. We've seen the Democratic Party turn against President Biden, Obama, George Clooney, and others, eventually pushing him out. All in these 3 weeks. We've seen Kamala Harris suddenly wrapping up a nomination in no time without being opposed. Also for Britain, we've seen a particularly busy summer of sport. So in other words, British attention has been elsewhere. Why do I mention this? We've had the European football championships, which only take place every 4 years, and Britain got through to the final for England, I should say, got through to the final for the first time, Paul will correct me if I'm wrong, ever on foreign soil in a major competition.
That's right.
That's right. And Starmer, and there was a big news item in Britain, in England. I'm not just mentioning it's a sporting item. Right. I'm trying to show how much is going on other than Israel in Britain. We also had Wimbledon, tennis, which is a big thing in England. Today, Britain got its first Olympic gold. We have the Olympics. So this is one of the busiest, speaking as a journalist now, the summer months are often regarded as a quiet season, July and August. I cannot recall such a busy international news month ever in my career in July. And also, of course, most people in Britain are more concerned with domestic issues. There are many economic and other domestic problems in Britain, and the National Health Service, prison overcrowding, education, and many other things. And yet, in these 3 weeks, the absolute obsession with Israel, that they have almost every couple of days in recent days made some very controversial moves against Israel, which are out of step, this is the British government, with Britain's close allies, Germany, France, America, and Italy, and other countries. And, many Jews in Britain had given Starmer the benefit of the doubt. They said, no, Labour has changed. It's not so obsessed by Israel and Jews. Many people I know voted for Labour on that presumption. And now we have the chief rabbi, who is, not a conservative. And we have the new head of the British Board of Deputies of British Jews, who used to be a councillor for the Labour Party of Keir Starmer in the Camden district of North London. So he's a Labour Party member writing an article. The new president of the Board of Deputies wrote an article yesterday in the London Sunday Times, really expressing enormous concern with Keir Starmer. And the chief rabbi has asked for an emergency meeting with Keir Starmer. So those Jews who wanted to give Labour the benefit of the doubt, which is probably a majority, I think are really quite taken aback by the speed which this government is acting against the democratic state of Israel, which supposedly is an ally of the United Kingdom.